Look, none of this has been easy in terms of oversight with this administration for the Democrats in Congress, but they did get Hope Hicks in to testify, but she totally stuck to the script, or so we're hearing, handing the House Judiciary Committee a whole lot of no comments. This White House is claiming absolute immunity, something that committee chair Jerry Nadler said they will, quote, destroy in court, but that takes time. Tennessee Democrat Steve Cohen was in the closed-door hearing. Congressman, always a pleasure to have you on the show. First, am I right or wrong that she was not answering questions?
Well, exercised immunity, and she abided by it for everything from January 2017, the beginning of the Trump administration. So there was no answers there at all. And even before that, during the campaign, she had a very limited recall and didn't remember any of the things that possibly could have occurred. Either she was just didn't listen in all those meetings, or she really wasn't there.
Was there refreshment of recollection for her to help with the intrigue surrounding the payments and the stories that were put out by the campaign, some of which were by her, about who was paid and when and why?
Nothing seemed to jar her memory, and she was just she said, I don't remember that. No, there was nothing about this. No, there was nothing about that. There was no talk about Russia. There was no talk about Kislyak. There was no talk about adoptions. There was no talk about sanctions. There was no talk. I guess they just talked about, Hillary and locking her up.
So, Congressman, where does this leave you? You guys right now are telling your party and the country, look, this is the way to do it. We go through these hearings. We'll fight where we have to in court. We'll get the facts together, and then we'll figure out if we have reasonable basis for starting an impeachment inquiry. My question has been all along, isn't that what an impeachment inquiry is? And that constitutionally you wind up having more power to get people like Hope Hicks to talk and less time in court?
I agree with you. That's why I'm in favor of an impeachment inquiry. I'm in favor of impeachment. There's enough in the Mueller report based on obstruction of justice. There's enough with emoluments. There's enough with disrespect for the First Amendment, for the press, for the judiciary, et cetera. And then for just his refusal to abide by or understand the law, like I'll accept foreign information on my opponent and I won't listen to what Ray says, and if the FBI director says that's illegal, I'll just say he's wrong. These are the kind of things that show he can't faithfully execute the laws, which is the oath he takes. And that's the basis of impeachment.
So where does this go from here?
Well, to be honest, without Nancy Pelosi's blessing, it's not going to go anywhere. We now have 68 folks who are in favor of impeachment or impeachment inquiries who announced such. There are more that are out there, and I think the more will be coming forth. I just think that we need to act partially because it's our duty. We have an oath, and impeachment is part of the Constitution, and those of us in judiciary are charged with respecting the Constitution and supporting it. And it's clear, and if the Senate won't convict and the Senate won't convict, I don't think that's a reason not to bring impeachment in the House. We will do our job. If the Senate doesn't do theirs, I think they'll be dealt with by the voters.
Yeah, it's got to be about what you see as good conscience and not fear of consequence, because then you're not really doing the job. But we'll see where that goes. Let's deal with how you're going to do things in the future. And now let's deal with what you're going to do about what happened in the past. What did you make of this hearing on reparations today? First of all, the fact that it happened at all was remarkable. And what did you take away from the room?
Well, I think it was a remarkable day. We had great testimony. Ta-Nehisi Coates, he was the star, as he always is. Danny Glover was great, and Ms. Malveaux. It was wonderful witnesses and good questioning from both sides on the committee. But it was a great debate, and it shows why we need to have a study of reparations. This isn't saying that we're going to have reparations. It's not saying we're going to have a check for people. It's going to say we're going to look into it. Charles Ogletree, a distinguished attorney and Harvard law professor, said that the way he sees it would be massive influxes of money for health care and education and job training for people who are left behind, particularly in the African-American community, but it could be others in the areas where there are high rates of unemployment, health deserts, need for job training, et cetera. We don't know what the study would produce, but the discussion today was robust. It went to a lot of history, what African Americans have and their ancestors have suffered from in this country. We had 250 years of slavery, give or take. We had 100 years of Jim Crow. And even since Jim Crow's ended, we haven't had such a wonderful time, especially if you're African American.
I mean, the injury is obvious. It's what the damages, what the award would be for the damages, just to use legal parlance on it. And when you have the Senate Majority Leader saying, well, you got Obama. We gave you the Civil Rights Acts. I mean, what else you want? I mean, what is the prospect of really getting anything productive done?
Well, I don't know that we'll get anything passed in this Congress. Until the Senate turns Democrat, we're not going to get much passed at all. Mitch McConnell has made it clear that he's the Grim Reaper. He's going to kill all legislation that comes from the House. We've, for the people agendas, included health care, lower prescription drugs, guaranteeing health care for people with pre-existing conditions, helping to work on some gun legislation, eliminating loopholes, and make sure you get background checks, working on climate change, working on ethics. We've got all that, but he's going to kill it all. We need to have a Democratic Senate, or we're just going to suffer more and more and more and go backwards. The Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. They have not passed an additional Voting Rights Act. We're trying to renew it, but the last time we tried to renew it, we had hardly any Republican support in the House and even less in the Senate.
Congressman, thank you so much for giving the insight into these two big hearings today. Appreciate it. Congressman
You're welcome,
Steve
Chris.
Cohen, always welcome on the show.